My boyfriend said he loved only me, but I found 5 other girls calling him. Baby, it was an ordinary Tuesday evening, and I was scrolling through my phone, mindlessly checking messages, when a notification caught my attention. It was from a social media platform I rarely use, just a pop-up from a group conversation I hadn't noticed before. My curiosity got the better of me, and I tapped to open it. What I found made my heart sink immediately. There, in plain sight, were messages from 5 different girls, all calling him baby, sending hearts, laughing emojis, and flirty comments. My boyfriend, the one who had told me countless times that he loved only me, that I was the only one who mattered, was apparently maintaining multiple conversations that clearly crossed the boundaries of a committed relationship. I stared at the screen, my mind unable to process the betrayal. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. It was as if the words on the screen weren't real, as if my mind was trying to rewrite the scene. How could he say one thing to my face and do something completely different behind my back? Each message felt like a dagger, cutting through the trust and love I had placed in him. The flirty tone, the intimacy, the constant attention he was giving them, it was more than casual chat. It was affection he reserved for no one but me. Or so I thought. I tried to rationalize it at first. Maybe they were old friends, playful messages, nothing serious. But the frequency, the tone, the use of baby over and over, it was undeniable. This wasn't innocent. My stomach twisted with anger and heartbreak. I felt the betrayal like a physical weight pressing down on my chest. Every memory of his words, every promise he had made, suddenly felt like a lie. I sat in silence for what felt like hours, scrolling back through the conversation, trying to understand how long this had been going on, how many times he had hidden this from me. Each line I read confirmed my worst fears. He had been deceptive, manipulative, and fully aware that I believed his declarations of love were genuine. Finally, I made a decision. I couldn't let this simmer in the dark. I had to confront him, not immediately, because emotions were too raw, but I needed a plan, a way to address this without losing control. I saved screenshots documenting every flirty message, every heart emoji, every whisper of affection that wasn't meant for me. That night, sleep eluded me. I couldn't stop replaying the conversations in my mind, imagining the moments he had shared with them while pretending to be faithful to me. My trust had been shattered, and I realized that the next few days would define the future of our relationship. Either I confronted him and demanded the truth, or I continued living with the silent knowledge of his betrayal, slowly eroding my sense of love and security. The next day, I decide to confront him, but his reaction shocks me. He denies everything at first, and then a truth emerges that turns my world upside down. The next morning, my heart raced as I prepared to confront him. I rehearsed what I would say over and over, trying to stay calm and collected. I knew I couldn't let anger take control, but the betrayal I had uncovered made it nearly impossible to think rationally. As soon as he walked into the apartment, I motioned for him to sit, my hands trembling slightly. "I need to talk to you," I said, keeping my voice steady but firm. He looked at me, confused, his casual smile faltering. "About what?" he asked, tilting his head. I took a deep breath and set my phone on the table, sliding the screenshots across to him. "These," I said simply. "Messages from 5 different girls calling you baby. Care to explain?" His eyes widened, and for a moment, I thought he might confess immediately. Instead, he leaned back, putting on a face of incredulity. I don't know what you're talking about," he said, his tone defensive. "Those aren't serious conversations. They're just friends joking around." I felt my jaw tighten. Friends joking around? Hearts, flirty emojis, repeated terms of endearment. It was far beyond harmless. "Friends don't call each other baby like this," I said, my voice rising slightly. 5 different girls, all flirty, all private messages. How is that joking around? And don't tell me you didn't know how it looked. You knew I would see this if I checked. His face paled, and a flash of guilt crossed his features. I didn't mean anything by it," he admitted reluctantly. "I didn't think it was a big deal. That's the problem," I said sharply. "It's a big deal. I trusted you, and you've been dishonest. Do you even understand what this does to me? Every time you said I love only you, it feels like a lie now." He looked down, silent, unable to meet my gaze. The realization of his actions hit him. Finally, and for the first time, I saw the fear in his eyes, not of losing a trivial argument, but of losing me entirely. He finally spoke, his voice quiet. "I'm sorry. I didn't want to hurt you." I didn't realize how much it would matter. I got carried away with attention, and I never intended for it to go this far. I listened, absorbing every word, but the damage was already done. Apologies felt hollow in the face of repeated deception. The emotional connection we shared had been fractured, and trust was no longer automatic. It had to be rebuilt from scratch, if at all. We sat in tense silence, both aware that the next steps were critical. Either we faced the truth fully and worked to repair the relationship, or we allowed it to crumble under the weight of betrayal. I realized that love alone wasn't enough. Honesty, boundaries, and accountability were now the foundation that would determine whether this relationship survived. As I dig deeper, I uncover messages that reveal an even darker layer of deceit, one that makes me question not only his loyalty but his very character and intentions. After our tense confrontation, I couldn't shake the unease. I knew I needed to understand the full extent of his deception. One evening, I decided to go through more of his messages carefully, methodically. I wasn't looking to punish him further. I needed clarity, a complete picture of what had been going on while he claimed he loved only me. As I scrolled, my stomach dropped. Beyond the 5 girls I had already seen, there were more subtle messages, private chats, flirty exchanges that he thought I wouldn't notice. There were girls complimenting him, joking intimately, and even referencing inside jokes I had never been part of. The term baby wasn't unique to those 5, it was a pattern, a recurring habit he used with multiple women. Each discovery intensified the sense of betrayal, and my heart ached with the realization that his promises had been hollow. I confronted him again that night, this time armed with evidence I couldn't ignore. "There's more," I said, my voice steady despite the anger bubbling beneath. "This isn't just about 5 girls calling you baby, it's a pattern. You've been flirting, texting, and keeping secrets from me for months. How can I trust anything you say?" He sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair. I know I've messed up," he admitted, his voice shaky. "It started small, just friendly banter. Then I didn't stop it. I got caught up in the attention, and I didn't think it was a big deal at the time. I never meant to hurt you." I shook my head, disbelief and pain etched across my face. "Not a big deal? Do you hear yourself? You've built a secret life behind my back while telling me I was the only one you loved. That's not a mistake, it's betrayal." He looked down, silent, unable to argue further. I realized then that the issue wasn't just his actions, it was his lack of respect for our relationship. His choices demonstrated a willingness to prioritize his ego over our bond, and that realization stung more than any specific message. I felt anger, heartbreak, and clarity all at once. "I need to know why," I pressed. "Was it just attention? Did you get something from this that you didn't get from me?" He hesitated, then spoke slowly. "It was validation, I guess. I didn't feel completely seen sometimes, and instead of talking to you about it, I looked elsewhere for reassurance. I know it was wrong, and I regret it." His admission cut deep. The pattern wasn't about love, it was about his insecurities, and I had been left to bear the consequences. I realized that rebuilding trust would be impossible unless he fully understood the damage he had caused and was willing to prove he could change. We sat in tense silence for hours, the weight of the betrayal hanging heavy in the room. It was clear that the relationship had been tested in a way it might never fully recover from, or if it did, it would require a transformation in honesty, accountability, and respect that neither of us could guarantee yet. The following week, an unexpected confession from him turns the situation upside down, revealing secrets even deeper than I could have imagined and forcing me to make a life-changing decision. The following week, I barely slept. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched, wondering if it was another secret he had kept hidden. The confrontation had revealed a disturbing pattern, but I still felt there was more I hadn't uncovered. I wanted clarity before deciding whether this relationship was salvageable or whether I needed to walk away entirely. One evening, he asked to talk. There was a tension in his tone that I hadn't heard before, a seriousness that suggested the conversation would go deeper than previous apologies. I agreed, sitting across from him at the kitchen table, my arms folded, heart pounding. "What is it?" I asked, bracing myself. He looked down, struggling to find words. "There's something I need to tell you. Something I haven't admitted." My stomach sank. I had already seen enough deceit to know this wasn't going to be simple. "Go on," I said cautiously. I wasn't completely honest about why I was messaging those girls. He began. "It wasn't just attention or validation. Some of them. I got emotionally involved. I didn't physically cheat, but I shared thoughts and feelings with them that I should have shared with you. I crossed lines I shouldn't have, and I realize now how wrong it was. The words hit me like a punch. Emotional betrayal. This wasn't just harmless flirting. He had allowed connections with other women to replace the intimacy and honesty that should have existed between us. My mind raced, struggling to process the enormity of what he had just confessed. You? What? I asked, my voice barely steady. You let them in emotionally while you were with me? He nodded, shame in his eyes. I thought I could compartmentalize it. I thought it didn't affect us, but I see now that it did. I hurt you, and I'm sorry. More than I can explain. I felt a surge of anger, mixed with heartbreak. The foundation of our relationship, trust, was crumbling under the weight of his actions. For a long moment, we sat in silence. I realized that this wasn't just about messages or calling girls baby. It was about his willingness to create emotional intimacy with others while claiming to love me exclusively. The reality was clear. I had been misled, and the person I thought I knew had shown a side that I couldn't ignore. I need to think, I said finally, my voice trembling. This isn't something I can just forgive overnight. Emotional betrayal is just as damaging as physical betrayal, and I need to decide if staying with you is even possible. He nodded, tears glistening in his eyes. I understand. I'll do whatever it takes to prove myself. If you give me the chance. I realized then that the next few days would determine everything. Either he could show genuine change, rebuild the shattered trust, and prove that our love was real, or I would have to accept that some betrayals can't be undone. No matter how sincere the apologies, a final revelation during a surprising encounter forces me to make a choice that will decide the ultimate fate of our relationship. And nothing will ever feel the same again. The next few days were tense. I went about my routine, but every thought kept drifting back to his confession. Emotional betrayal was a heavy weight, one that couldn't be ignored. I knew I had to make a decision, and soon. Either I could try to salvage the relationship, knowing the trust had been deeply damaged, or I could walk away and protect myself from further hurt. Then, unexpectedly, a mutual friend reached out. They had been aware of some of the messages I had uncovered and insisted on sharing a piece of information that changed everything. You need to know, the friend said, he's been trying to reconcile with all of them behind the scenes, even after confessing to you. Some of them are furious. He didn't fully commit, and they're stirring drama that could reach you if you don't act fast. My heart sank. Not only had he emotionally betrayed me, but he was still entangled in the chaos he had created. I confronted him immediately, standing in the living room, phone in hand. Why? Why would you continue any of this after telling me the truth? I demanded. His face fell, and for the first time, he looked genuinely terrified. I panicked, he admitted. I didn't know how to end things cleanly. I didn't want anyone hurt, and I thought I could manage it. I see now that it was selfish and stupid. The realization hit me hard. He had not only deceived me, but had also failed to take full responsibility until external pressure forced him to face the consequences. Every apology he had offered felt diluted by the knowledge that he hadn't acted immediately to stop the damage. I realized that love alone couldn't fix this. Trust, once fractured in such a profound way, could only be rebuilt through consistent accountability and transparency, things I hadn't seen yet. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I need honesty, complete honesty, I said, and I need time to decide if this is something I can survive. Because right now, I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again. He nodded silently, tears streaming down his face, finally grasping the depth of what he had done. Over the next week, I watched him take action, cutting off contact with the other girls, being completely transparent about every interaction, answering questions I had held back for fear of his reaction. It was not easy for either of us. Every day was a test of patience, accountability, and genuine effort. Slowly, I began to see the possibility of rebuilding, but the emotional scars remained. By the end of the week, I made a choice. I chose to step back, to protect myself first, and to only continue the relationship if he proved through consistent action that his love was real and that he could honor the trust that had been broken. It wasn't about revenge, it was about self-respect and ensuring that any future with him was built on honesty, not manipulation. That weekend, as I walked through the park alone, I felt a strange mixture of relief and sadness. The betrayal had hurt deeply, but it had also forced me to confront boundaries, self-worth, and the reality of love in its rawest form. Some relationships survive betrayal. Some don't, and in that moment, I realized that no matter what happened next, I had reclaimed my power and my voice.